Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. Remember to leave a like and subscribe so we can hit 50 subscribers. With that being said, we have a lot to analyze. It's been a couple days since I've done a poll analysis video and a betting odds analysis video. And in today's video, I'm just going to go over the betting odds, I'm going to go over the polls, analyze the polling, and then at the end of the video, pull up the election map and just fill in the state of the election based on the polls as it is right now. With that being said, let's look at the betting odds. And the betting odds have tightened ever since the DNC convention. And actually, Trump retook the lead right around the peak day of the DNC convention when Kamala Harris spoke. Trump was leading in the betting odds, and this is right around when RFK Jr. suspended his campaign, paused his campaign, and endorsed Donald J. Trump for president. And of course, since then, we have had Tulsi Gabbard endorse Donald J. Trump, a huge endorsement. And we can see here that going forward, I think Trump actually took the lead again around August 28th by 0.1 in the betting odds. Then Harris took the lead again after some time as it being tied, and now it is tied again. And so the election, where the money sits, is a dead heat. Again, I don't think that Trump has to be up in the betting odds to win this election. Of course, in 2016, he was down at like 20% or something like it was, and Hillary Clinton was at like 70% to win. And so it doesn't matter super much, but money at the end of the day does speak. And this is a good sign for Trump, where historically, if we look at the polling in the general election, at a time where Democrats on average beat Trump by 4 to 7 points, we see in 2020, Biden was up by 7.2%. And of course, Biden went on to win the election. However, in 2016, Clinton was up by 4.1%, and Trump went on to win the election. Based on that very rough, basic, unanalytical analysis, Harris leading by 1.8% at this state of the election would result in a Trump victory come November. And we can actually see here that Trump is starting to go back up in the general election polling. We had Rasmussen Reports put out the poll of Trump up by +2. Wall Street Journal, Harris only leading by 1 point. ABC News, garbage poll, but you still have to take it into account. Harris up by 4. That's kind of the type of poll that you would expect from them. But last election cycle, you would definitely expect Biden +8s from them. And so it is still a gain for Trump. Now, with that being said, we can look at the latest polling, which is the national polling. But the most important stuff comes out from Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. We don't have to look at Minnesota today, but we can at the end of the video. Arizona, Nevada, and these are the most important polls. We see in Nevada, Trump versus Harris, the most recent poll, insider advantage, a fairly fair poll. I trust this poll. This is probably what it is. It's probably a little bit higher for Trump, but Trump up by 1 in Nevada. Very, very good stuff for him. And I think Trump is probably going to win Nevada by 2 to 3 points. I don't think it's going to be a tilt state. I think it is going to be a lean state for Donald Trump. In Pennsylvania, of course, in the average, Harris has taken the lead, but you can see she is dipping down based on the last 2 polls. From The Hill, it's a tie. From Trafalgar Group, it is a Trump +2 victory. And so after this terrible morning consult poll, it is going back to the usual of Trump leading an average of 1 point to 2 point in the polling. Morning consult really shouldn't even be included. They are just making this polling average completely inaccurate. I don't know why this morning compost poll even really exists. It shouldn't exist. It's terrible. It's always incorrect. That being said, Michigan, Trump actually led a poll in Michigan by 1%. And he tied in the latest Trafalgar Group Republican poll. And this is good news for Donald Trump. Trump is gaining in the state of Michigan. You can see in the RCP average, Harris is going down by a lot. She is plummeting down in the average polling aggregate. Trump is always underestimated in Michigan. I think in the current state of the race, Harris might still pull out a win in Michigan, but it is overall good news for Trump. And moving forward to Wisconsin, we actually have good polling for Donald Trump. I don't know exactly why he's still plummeting down in the aggregate, but you can see that Harris is actually plummeting down harder than Trump is plummeting down. So they are both falling down. And the last two polls actually have Trump up by 1, The Hill and Trafalgar Group. So good news for Trump in Wisconsin. Moving on to Arizona. Arizona has actually shown the best news for Trump. The Hill Emerson poll, Trump up by 3. Bloomberg Morning Consult, which is always so biased, heavily in favor of the Democratic Party, actually had it as a tie. This is excellent news for Donald J. Trump. Of course, +3 in this poll, and +1 in the Insider Advantage poll, and Trafalgar Group all the way back here, +1, Rasmussen +2. The only one that actually had Harris leading in recent times is Fox News and New York Times, which this poll down here, New York Times, is a horrible poll. The Fox News poll is better, but it is still inaccurate. And we see in the average, the RCP average, the most accurate poll, the total average of them all, has Trump up by 0.5, and he's actually dipping back up. It has tightened significantly since Harris replaced Biden, but Trump is still in the lead, and it doesn't seem like he is going to lose that lead. Now, with that being said, North Carolina is the only other state we can look at, as well as Georgia. I think Georgia is going to be a tough state for Trump and a good state for Harris. However, Trump is still leading in the state. In the Insider Advantage poll, it is a tie. In the RCP average, it is Trump up by 0.2. I think that is probably accurate, actually. I think the election is going to come down to the wire in the state of Georgia. And in the end of the day, 0.2 win for Trump is a realistic win. I think he'll probably end up winning it by more, by like 0.5, but 0.2 could definitely happen. It could come down to like 10,000 votes, 5,000, 3,000 votes in this state. And this is not good news, nor is it bad news for Trump. It is a tie. It is better news than the three polls before it, but generally speaking, it is pretty in the middle, meh news for Donald Trump. And in North Carolina, Trump maintains his lead. I don't think there's any doubt he's going to lose North Carolina, especially since he won it last election, where Biden and the Democrats gained significantly. And so in an election where the overall trend is in favor of the Republicans, he is not going to lose North Carolina. With that being said, let's pull up the map. And here in the map, I have filled out all of the states, just not even by the margins, but all of these states that are going to be won at the state of the election by their respective party and respective candidate. Let me just finish up in Nebraska. I do think that Harris is going to win the 2nd District of Nebraska as it stands, and we have the 7 most important states in the election. And based on the polling, Trump is leading in Georgia by 0.2%. Tilt for Donald J. Trump. He's leading in Arizona by 0.5%. Tilt for Donald J. Trump. In North Carolina by 0.6%. Tilt for Donald J. Trump. I do think this is going to be a lean state, but based on the polls, tilt for Donald J. Trump. And so at this state, all Trump has to do to win the election is win one of the Rust Belt states. And so we'll first do Nevada. And it is actually a tie in Nevada. However, the latest poll has Trump up. The most recent poll has Donald J. Trump up. So it is going to be a tilt for Donald J. Trump. Now moving on to the most deciding states this election. Don't get me wrong, all 4 of these states, and even Nebraska's 2nd District, are all extremely important, and they matter to the outcome of the election and could even decide the election. Could even be more important than the Rust Belt. But generally speaking, the Rust Belt is seen as the most important, and we will start out with Michigan. And based on the polling, Harris is up in Michigan. So let's fill that out. It's a tilt margin, I believe. Yes, it is a tilt margin. Harris is up in Michigan. And in Wisconsin, let's do Wisconsin next. Harris is also up. I don't think she is going to win Wisconsin. I think it's actually going to be a lean state for Trump, especially as the polls are always wrong in the state of Wisconsin and always overestimate the Democrats by 4 to 6%. but that is it based on the polls. And so here we have an extraordinarily close election based on the polling, and it all comes down to the state of Pennsylvania. And yes, the state that Donald Trump almost got unalived in, and I can't say the real thing, could end up winning the state for Trump. And this is a hard call because the RCP average does have Harris up by 2. But you look at the morning consult poll, and this is really extremely unfair. But at the baseline, based on the polling, average, Harris would win 270 to 268. However, you look at this. You look at the last 2 polls, has Trump up. You look at the polling beforehand, Trump up. You look at the Bloomberg Morning Consult poll and look at how awfully inaccurate it is. And this isn't even just a statement I'm making. You compare the polls to election results. You look at, like, I think it had Harris up in Michigan by like 11 points just a month ago. It even had Trump up by 4. This poll is all over the place. I mean, it is not an accurate poll. It is a terrible polling firm. And so I do think, especially if we don't include this poll, Trump would win this state based on the polling. And so at the end of the day, this is the more accurate polling result, the polling map, if you want to call it that. And Trump would win the election in Pennsylvania based on the polls if the election were held today. Now, I want to thank you all for watching this analysis. I do want you to subscribe so we can grow this community. And with that being said, have a nice day.